Well, hello there, and welcome to IB Nation Sports Talk. It's Mailbag night. He's Vince D'Addario. I'm Sean Steiners. I think we're both a little dragging tonight.
You had a way busier day than you probably anticipated, I would imagine. Like
way busier.
I watched your show today.
Okay.
Or the afternoon show with you and Brian, because I wanted to see how practice went. And it absolutely amazes me that it was supposed to be 5 periods, then it was 8, and then it was 10, and then, hey, you know what? We're just going to let you stay the whole practice. Like,
yeah,
that is nuts to me. It's just nuts. I heard Brian's response. He's happy because Friday was just supposed to be a walkthrough, and you wouldn't get anything, and we were all complaining we only got one open practice. Totally get all of that, but like, it just amazes me that they think that we just wait around to just at their beck and call change your life around, basically.
Well, apparently we do.
I know.
The thing is, they could have said you have 5 periods or half a practice, which we thought going in, but we had to come back at 9:40 anyway to do the interviews, the post-practice interviews.
Right.
So
that's true.
And as it turned out, I don't know if you saw this part of the afternoon show, like practice was supposed to end at 9:40 and it didn't end until after 10 o'clock. So,
of course.
So like if we had left and come back, we would have come back and then sat around and waited for 20 to 25 minutes. So
yeah, no, you're right.
I guess we were better off just watching more practice. I don't know.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right about that. It's better to watch practice and be entertained than sit at Martin's and wait around, I suppose, or sit in the interview room and wait around. And there's definitely things that you can count on in this world, right? Death, taxes, and not being on time for Notre Dame football practice. Like,
right.
They tell us to be there at a certain time. I don't even pay attention to that time anymore because we end up just sitting around in the lobby, staring at each other, waiting to get in. And it's never more than 15, 20 minutes late. It's like, I don't know. They're never on time.
Hurry up and wait.
Yes, that's always.
Exactly, that's right.
Always.
That's right. That was the old Army thing. Hurry up and wait. Everybody got to be here. Got to be here early. Got to be here on time. And then you stand around and wait and wait and wait. Well, hit the like button on your way in. Let your friends know that we're here helping out Irish Breakdown. Subscribe to all of our different channels. And it's mailbag night, so it's on you. Bring on the questions, and we'll do our best to answer them for you today. We're getting a few trickling in right now. Look, start off. Thanks to Anthony for the super chat. He said a little something for Sean doing double duty today. If only I got to pocket that, the actual.
Yeah, seriously.
Proceeds from the super chat, but
no
I
doubt.
do appreciate it. Thank you very much.
We all get a little piece of the pie there.
It's like bartenders and waitresses sharing the tips. That's what it is.
That's exactly what it is. We pull it up, and it all gets divvied out.
That's exactly right. But thank you very much, Anthony. Of course, do appreciate it. Tommy was the first one here, so let's go with him. Did you guys notice if the offense is using more hot routes against the blitz, or is it still more built-in routes? I would say a mix, probably. I wasn't paying quite as close attention to that today, but Saturday when they were doing a lot of the blitzing and stuff like that, I did notice, like guys, finding hot routes and those kind of things. So I think there is some evolution there potentially.
Well, and it sounded like, just listening to you guys, because I do want to put this out there. Somebody asked for my opinion about practice. Tyler misguided passion bang. I wasn't at practice because I was at work, and this was not a preordained full practice. Otherwise, I might have gotten sick and had to go watch practice. I had no idea. I had no idea this is going to be a full open practice. I'm a little disappointed about that.
None of us did.
And so that kind of probably why I was complaining, because I really wanted to be there and I didn't know it was going to be a full practice. But either way, listening to what you guys were talking about on the afternoon show, it felt like there were more hot route type deals, and the communication between Buckner and the receivers was better in that regard than it was with Hartman and the receivers. And that's just because they've been doing it together for longer. I mean, it makes perfect sense. But that's when those miscommunications kind of come into play, when you're doing, you're cutting off routes and you're doing some different things, and the quarterback knows what you're going to be doing before you do it. Makes sense that Tyler Buckner would be more on the same page as the receivers than Hartman was. So I think they were doing more of that than in the past. I do.
Yeah. I think so as well. John Murray, will Ryan Barnes get a shot at safety?
I mean, look, at this point, and we've got a question later on about Clarence Lewis.
You want to just knock them both out now?
Yeah, let's do it, because I think the answer is the same. But there's a week left right now in spring ball, week and a half, and they haven't moved anybody to safety. And so I'm going to go ahead and say it's not going to happen. I mean, I would be shocked if it happened in the fall. This is the time to experiment, is in the spring, and they're not doing it. As much as we think that's the right move, and we think that should be the move, and all of these different things, they haven't done either one of those things to our knowledge.
Correct.
And so
now we should say they haven't done it when we are there, because we're going to talk about Lorenzo. We're going to save the Lorenzo Styles talk for a little bit, but I'll just get this out right now on Lorenzo Styles. He did play some cornerback today. Apparently, he had shown an interest in playing some cornerback. He has done it before today, but today was the first day that we actually saw him play cornerback.
Yeah.
So just because we haven't seen some of these other guys play safety, maybe doesn't necessarily mean they haven't tried it. That also doesn't mean they have. But like, we hadn't seen Lorenzo Styles play corner before today, and apparently he's done it sprinkled in here and there at some different points.
Yeah. So who knows? I mean, again,
that's something we can potentially ask about. We're going to get to talk to Marcus Freeman and Jared Parker and Al Golden Saturday after they have their big scrimmage at Notre Dame Stadium. So there's a list of things that are kind of percolating right now that we can potentially ask about.
Saturday would have been a great day to have an open practice, but here we are. Just saying.
Right. Anthony, for the first time in a while, Notre Dame has a good quarterback room, which is the one position, in my opinion, that has cost the school big game and playoff wins. So not necessarily a question, but
it's a good comment, which is why I started, because I think this is right on the money. I mean, let's be honest. When Notre Dame's been in the playoff in the past, they've been a quarterback away from competing. I mean, they let's take the Clemson game in 2018. Let's talk about that one specifically, right? Defense was playing great that game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they had Clemson on the ropes, no doubt about it. Now, Clemson had the best quarterback in the country, and he ended up making a couple of plays when Notre Dame's best corner went out with an injury. So you got to tip your cap to that. The issue was they loaded the box defensively, Clemson did, against Notre Dame, and there was nothing Notre Dame could do about it. Yeah. And, that's on the quarterback. They had weapons on the outside. They had a great offensive, pretty darn good offensive line. They should have been able to move the ball against Clemson, and Clemson just said, look, we don't think you can throw over our head, so we're going to load the box, and it worked. They could not move the ball. So, yeah, they've been a quarterback away from having an elite team for a while now, and I think Anthony hit the nail on the head here. They have a really good quarterback room right now. I would feel comfortable with either the first guy or the second guy, however that shakes out. Mm-hmm. I would be happy with either guy leading this team and feel good about the fact that the quarterback position is an elevated position from where it's been over the last 10 years.
I can't remember a time when the position 1 through 4 is as promising and looks as good as it looks right now.
Oh my gosh.
Like night and day difference.
Side to side, 1 through 4 last year and this year. I mean, there's no.
Well, and then
comparison.
Yeah, I mean, think about even 2 years ago, and
Sure.
when Jack Cohn was here, 3 years ago, when Ian Book was here, like who was competing with Ian Book? Like, and go back before that, like you had Brandon Wimbush and Ian Book, you had Deshaun Kaiser and Malik Zaire at the same time, but sort of like 1 and 2 even. And again, like just looking at the level of talent 1 through 4, can't remember a time when the quarterback room was looking like this.
I mean, you said it on the show this afternoon. Like, okay, whether you flip 1 or 2 or it doesn't really matter to me at the moment, right? Well, who's 1 and who's 2 if you're comparing it to last year, right? So you've got last year it was Buckner, Pine, Angeli, Paulus the third. Like that
Right.
was those were your 4. This year it's Hartman, Buckner. So Hartman versus last year's Buckner, that's a win. Buckner versus last year's Buckner, obviously, that's a win for
Buckner
this year.
Versus last year's Pine. Yeah.
And then the second one, you've got either Buckner versus last year's Pine or Hartman versus last year's Pine. Either way, that's a win here. Angeli versus last year's Angeli, obviously. And Angeli's actually looked pretty decent. He's looked pretty decent.
I was going to say, and I think this year's Angeli gives last year's Pine run.
Oh my gosh, yes,
as well.
I think his arm's stronger than Pine's was for sure this time last year. There's no doubt. Like that would be a competition 2-3 this time around if it was the same 4. And then of course Kenny Minchie versus Ron Paulus III. I mean, come on, man. Like that's not even a competition. And with as good as Angeli is playing, I would argue that there's a decent chance by the end of the year. Now they're not going to have competition for who's going to be the 3rd and 4th quarterback because somebody's going to go down and work with the scout team and that whole thing. But if it was all 4 of those guys all competing all year long, it would not surprise me in any way if Kenny Minchie became the 3rd quarterback, relatively quickly over Angeli. And that's nothing against Angeli, but it talks about the tools that Kenny Minchie has. And once he becomes comfortable in this offense and comfortable as a college quarterback, the sky's the limit. So this quarterback room is completely different than it was last year. And 2 of the guys are the same.
We're seeing between that, again, 1 through 4, and then you're going to bring in CJ Carr next year, and it's going to continue. And they're starting to stack talent. We talked about it with the linebackers and the athleticism of the young linebackers as well. And you're already seeing it starting with Benjamin Morrison last year with the cornerbacks. You're just going to see a continuation of that with this recruiting. I realize there's some people outside who want to say that Brian Kelly and Marcus Freeman, their recruiting really isn't that different. There is. There's
oh my gosh, that's a joke and a half.
You can see it on the field right now.
Right.
They're not all going to be starting right now, but you can see it trickling in, and you can see it start to stack and build on top of each other.
I mean, just look at and again, I don't blame Tommy 100% for the quarterback recruiting as he's been the quarterback's coach because everything had to go through Brian Kelly.
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly, and I know maybe this is going to make some people mad. I don't know, but Tommy Gunn says who is competing with Ian Book? Nobody, and that was by design.
Right.
I agree with that.
Fair point.
I really do agree with that. I don't think that, our boy BK wanted to upset the apple cart. He wanted the winner, to be the starter. And that was by design. I really do believe that, and Ian Book was good when he took over in 2018. They were really, really good when he took over in the middle of the season. Just simple RPOs. And, he was pushing the ball down the field, doing all kinds of stuff. And he never got better. He actually regressed, in my opinion. But they won a lot of games because of the nature of the schedule.
The offense did become more consistent when you went from, because Brandon Wimbush was so erratic. Obviously a much bigger arm, but it was just so erratic with the short stuff.
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
It became obvious that they had to make that switch.
Yes.
But you're absolutely, I mean, it's absolutely fair point that there was no competition after that. Right. And we didn't get to see enough of what a real Phil Jurkovec competition would have looked like. That just didn't last long enough.
Yeah, for a myriad of reasons.
He was young and I won't say erratic, but again, like if I compared the Phil Jurkovec that I saw then to the guys I saw out there on the field today.
Oh yeah,
I would put just all the things that we talked about, from the way the ball comes out of their hand, the consistency, with getting the ball on target, throwing guys open, all those kind of things. All 4 guys that we saw today were ahead of where Phil was at that point.
Oh, I agree with that totally. I think that the quarterback room is 1,000 times better now than it was then. There's no, I mean, that's not even an argument, right? I'm with you 100%. I still think Phil should have gotten a shot after the Michigan game. I'll go to my grave on that one because it felt very similar to me when they replaced Wimbush with Ian because the offense was struggling. It felt very similar, but then he's like, nope, stick it with Ian. Like it felt, hey man, what have you got to lose? Like there is no way the offense could look worse.
Yeah, he had his guy at that point.
But yeah, it is what it is. Yep. No reason to rehash the old stuff, but the bottom line is the quarterback room is light years ahead of where it even was last year. And, top to bottom, 1 through 4, than it's been since I can remember.
Right. Our old friend Romluck, I've got a rule not to drink until I see Sean's face, and he pops up at 2 p.m. today. Needless to say, I'm hammered. Take that as a compliment. Thank you very much.
It's awesome. He's got the beer goggles on.
That's right. Father David, at this point, is there a player you think could be a surprise starter this year?
A surprise starter.
I would say this would be the only one that I can think of right now because of what we've seen from him. There would be 2.
Okay.
2 guys. They would both be on defense.
Okay.
Now, I don't think this is probably going into the season, but, could end up starting at some point. They were not guys we were talking about going into the spring. That would be Jason Onye at nose guard and Nolan Ziegler as well at linebacker.
Okay.
Those would be 2 guys who were not on our radar a month ago, who are on the radar, who are both going to, I think they're both going to play quite a bit this season.
Who was the first one? I was still thinking.
Onye and Ziegler.
Okay.
Onye and Ziegler.
Gotcha. Yeah, those would be good.
I think Howard Cross is still the guy at nose guard, but I'm just saying because the way Onye has played so far, he's going to play quite a bit. I can't think of anyone else that would really fall into that category.
I'm going to go a different direction on this one. Offensively, to me, at this point, I'm going to say that Caleb Smith would be a surprise starter for me because I know bringing him in.
It would surprise you if he starts, basically.
Yeah, it really would because he's been injured, and that injury, he's kind of getting Wally pipped. Like, I feel like the guys that are not injured who have been on the roster have surpassed him. I mean, in the little bit that we've seen of him, it hasn't been super impressive, to be honest. So I feel like if he starts, that would surprise me because I think that would be a kind of a mercy start, like, hey, we brought you in to start. We're going to start you. But I feel like he's kind of dropped on the depth chart a little bit with kind of the ascension, of the guys that are out there practicing right now.
Sure. That makes sense.
So I'm surprised in a bad way, I guess, because I think those other guys should start ahead of him.
Yeah. Go back to the quarterbacks. Jeff Brown, how close has the quarterback competition been? From Brian's comments in his practice report, Buckner was better than Hartman. Is it due to Tyler Buckner's comfort level with the offense and wide receivers, or has he improved that much?
Okay, I'm going to take this in a couple of different pieces. He has improved greatly. I think his timing is better. I think his mechanics are better. I think his decision-making is better, even from, the fall to now, even though not that much time has surpassed. I get that. But I think he has gotten better. There's no comparison between Tyler Buckner, who was the starter last year at this time, to the Tyler Buckner that is competing for a starting position this year. He's definitely gotten better.
Everything's a lot more fluid right now.
Yeah. And I feel like his ball's coming out a little bit stronger, a little hotter, a little tighter, all of it. I think that
leading guys better.
Yeah. I think that he's gotten a lot better. I will also say, yes, of course, I think his comfort level with the offense and with the receivers, it's absolutely a piece of it. And I think specifically to today, with the way that they were running practice, I think that was absolutely a factor, right? I think we can all agree on that. Now, how close is the quarterback competition? That's honestly a question that I would love to ask some of the people closer to the program because we just haven't seen enough to kind of know where the coaches' heads are with this. I mean, I still think that Hartman is probably the leader in the clubhouse, regardless of the fact that he's running with the twos today. So, maybe he wasn't as on as he could have been or whatever. I get all that. But Tyler Buckner's not going off into the night like quietly. I do think that it is a competition. I don't know how close of a competition it is. But again, I think you could be happy with either guy as a starter. But I still think Sam Hartman is going to be the starter.
I would agree with that. And I think that one thing, and I do think the familiarity with the receivers is a legitimate thing. Like
Sure.
you just have a feel for each other. Now, the young guys, the freshmen, they've all been here the same amount of time as Sam Hartman, so, but it's mostly, like with Tyler Buckner, it's more Deion Colsey specifically. You see something there, and you see something with Tobias Merriweather as well, who
sure,
was with Tyler Buckner last year. I'll say this, like, even though they don't have official practices and all that stuff over the summer and there are workouts, the quarterbacks are going to get with the receivers, and they'll be running routes and,
all
working on all that stuff all summer long. They're on campus together for 2 months, basically, out there, a month and a half, whatever it is. So, like, what we're seeing right now on day one of fall camp could look a lot different.
Yes.
Just because of that basic thing. The fact that they'll have some time together where they can get out there and do nothing, like Sam Hartman, throwing to those guys. And Buckner will be out there with guys too, but it can look a lot different. And I would expect it to look a lot different once fall camp rolls around.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you're going to see everything's going to get better, especially from, like you said, the relationship between the receivers and the quarterbacks only gets better over the summer. You got a lot of player-led stuff that they do and the workouts and all of that. And I think the relationship between Buckner and Hartman is really good at the moment, from everything I can tell from body language on the field when we're at practice, things like that. And again, Tyler Buckner taking this as a serious competition and pushing Sam Hartman is only a positive for the program, for Sam, for Tyler, for everybody. And one of the guys, who was it? Oh, Anthony. He said Tyler forgot that he was supposed to be a backup plan this year, and that's good for him and ND. Completely agree. And I want to give credit where credit's due, but he's absolutely right. He also said that Gino has played a major role in Buckner's improvement. I would give Gino some credit, absolutely, but he hasn't been there that long. I mean, he's only been there a few weeks, but if he deserves the credit, then I'm going to give it to him. I mean, I was never 100% on board with the whole, we need a different quarterbacks coach who isn't the offensive coordinator. Like, that seemed like a ridiculous argument to me. But Gino is a dedicated quarterbacks coach. Like, that's his craft. Like, that's what he does.
But he's working with Sam Hartman too. So it's not like he's just working with Tyler Buckner.
100%. So. But like I said, he's a quarterbacks coach. Like, Tommy was an offensive coordinator who coached quarterbacks, right? And everybody's like, you got to bring in somebody different and blah, 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 like, which was impossible. You can only have so many assistants. But I do see where this is beneficial as well, that Gino is a quarterbacks coach. Like, that can only benefit. That's not going to hurt. It can only benefit.
Yeah. I don't disagree. And Taylor is ready to bench Hartman already. If he starts slow, missing some easy ones, but the team wins, will he stay the starter?
Oh, man, I hate these kinds of questions.
This is just a tough road to start going down now.
It really is. Like, and because look at the first game,
it's ultimately going to come down to a gut feel of, the head coach, the offensive coordinator, and the quarterbacks coach in, getting together and discussing that, what they're seeing every day. And, like Brian Kelly made that move midstream going to Ian Book over Brandon Wimbush, and there was all the, is Book going to play and, all this different stuff. And then all of a sudden here comes Ian Book and he's the starter for the rest of the season. And it's only, I guess we'll have to cross that road when we get there, because it is a huge hypothetical right now. Let's just wait and see. Let's just wait and see when we get there.
No, absolutely. I think it's going to be interesting. And the other thing is, I mean, gosh, I hate to say this because it's going to sound, I don't know how it's going to sound, but like you and I could quarterback Notre Dame for the first 3 games and probably they would still win. You know what I mean? Because you just hand off all
Don't go
day.
too far because we thought
I
some of that
know, I
last year.
know. I would have said that about Marshall too.
I
So
said all they had to do was show up and beat Stanford, and look what happened. So.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I said the same thing, and I still believe that to this day. And they lost to both of those teams. So, you know, it'll be interesting to see. I hope that obviously doesn't happen. Hopefully, they've gotten there. You know, look, Sam Hartman has played a ton of football. Like, I just don't feel like he's going to come out and just be flat. I have a hard time seeing that. You have to evaluate each game as it comes and what those mistakes look like. And you know, are they going 3 and out?
Well, you know, and the
Tennessee
other thing
State?
is like we've never seen Sam Hartman in a spring setting before. You know,
Yeah,
like
very true.
You know, is he working on some things? Is he just kind of, you know, like we've just never seen that before. So we have nothing to compare that to. And, you know, really we've never seen Sam Hartman up close and personal like this. So it's completely different for everybody. It is a new system that he is working in. It's a whole new set of coaches, whole new set of receivers, whole new offense, and the whole thing. So he's a talented guy. He just hasn't looked perfect when we've seen him out there. You know?
Yeah.
It's not like he's throwing a bunch of interceptions that we've seen.
Right. And again, that's not all on the quarterback at times too. I mean, it's the nature of the program and you know, the practice. I mean, it's the relationship with the receiver. Like there's just so many pieces and parts, and it's April 12th. Like there's so much time between now and August 26th or whenever it is that they're in Dublin playing Navy. And yeah.
I'm going to hang on, just say I'm writing this down. Someone's given us a show topic once again because this is too much for Brock. It's a great topic, but I think it's too much for right now.
Could be great for Monday though.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. He asked how we would grade each position from bad, decent, good, and elite. That is a full show topic right there. So we'll jump into that in detail very soon.
Yeah, so there's like pieces and parts to that too. So like I think we should almost rank them like you know, national championship, playoff, you know, New Year's 6, other.
I like that.
You know what I mean? Like where do they stack up?
Middling bowl,
Tier
bowl, whatever, tier 3 bowl.
Right, exactly. The Poinsettia Bowl.
Yeah, that's right. All right. So I like that. But we're not going to jump into that today. There's too much there.
I love it too. Yeah, you have to tune in.
Give us a chance to get more. Give us a chance to get more in depth on those, just like we did with the topic earlier this week. Joe, would either of you be surprised if Coach Golden decides to go with the usual suspects, JD, Maris, Jack, as the starters due to their experience? Will you blame any of our young linebackers for transferring?
First of all, I would actually be surprised if those are your 3 starters. I actually would. I think the other guys have shown enough to where that might not be the situation. I think we've seen Jack play a lot more inside than he has at Rover. I think there's a reason for that. And I think that I guess there's a possibility that you could see JD, Jack, and another linebacker starting. So I could see that as a possibility. Would I blame any of them for transferring? That's a tough question because there's that fine line between personal and professional. And if they don't see their way onto the field, then I get it. I mean, I guess I get it. I would be upset because I still think that there's a lot of, you know, opportunity for these guys to play, especially moving forward. And it would be very difficult to transfer and start right away at another place unless they go down, you know, a level. And is that really beneficial? And, you know, all of those different scenarios, right? So I would be surprised if all 3 of those guys started. I really would.
I think I would too. And I think you try to get inside it. Everyone panics as soon as someone's not playing, you know, like everyone thought, not everyone, a lot of people thought as soon as Sam Hartman announced he was coming here, Tyler Buchner was just going to run out the door, just like Drew Pine did, you know, like
Right.
Everyone's different. Some of these guys, and a lot of times, now, not all the time, but a lot of times, the players themselves know what their deficiencies are and why
Sure.
they're not playing more than they're playing, and they continue to try to work on it. We're just assuming that because a guy comes in with a high star rating,
Right.
he thinks that he's entitled to the field right away. Now, do they expect to? Sure, they expect to play because they're highly touted guys coming out of
Sure.
high school. But most of these guys were fairly highly touted to some extent themselves. Like Brian talked earlier today about how JD got an offer from Georgia at one point. I agree. To me, Bertrand is the only locked in stone starter right now. And I've got no problem with JD Bertrand
I don't either
being the starter.
I really
especially
don't.
Like if you saw him today, you'd go, yeah, I want that guy starting at middle linebacker. There's nobody else on the middle linebacker roster who's as ready and can do what JD Bertrand can do right now. He's led the team in tackles the last 2 years.
Right.
Were there some things that he could have done better and cleaned up last year? Of course. As of right now, he's done a pretty good job of it. I still think that, and we can talk to Jesse about this tomorrow since he's played middle linebacker himself. I think that the year in the system and where he is now, what he knows, I think that knowledge is allowing him right now to play faster than he played last year, knowing where he needs to be and just knowing where, because Jesse was not the fastest linebacker in the world, but he knew he was very assignment sound, and being assignment sound makes you a step faster just knowing where you're supposed to be. You can cover up some other things by not, even though you're not blazing fast, by knowing where you're supposed to be, because it gives you the anticipation. As soon as you see it, you've already started your step rather than sitting back, thinking about the step and then taking it. So, I think JD is a lot farther along. And I think, some of these other guys, the veterans are as well. But that doesn't mean I'm rubber stamping them all as the starters.
Sure.
Number 8's got the farthest to go in my eyes.
I completely agree with that. Completely agree with that. And I don't remember what number Snead changed into. Is he like 3 or something like that? But apparently he's been all over the field. So I would not be surprised in any way if he was
3.
starting. Yeah, I would not be surprised if he was starting at that rover position. I think that's where he's been practicing. They've been moving these guys around so much. I can't even keep track of the depth chart.
We haven't seen him the last 2 practices.
Right.
So that's why.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the other thing is we haven't seen Snead or Colley the last 2 practices. So we have nothing to compare it to right now.
I would I was reading a question that there's no way I can answer.
I was going to say, throw it up there if you want to.
Yeah, this is another like show topic. I think on the 23 schedule, which team has better position by position players than Notre Dame, and what would your over under be? Like that's gonna take some research, man. Like I have no idea. Michael. But that's a great question. I love that. It's a great question. It totally caught me off guard, and I totally lost my train of thought on what we were talking about.
I'm writing that down so we don't forget it.
Yeah. But no,
I tell you what, something that especially for Ohio State, Clemson, USC, maybe even Navy, since Notre Dame plays them first, I'm probably going to have some of those beat writers on from those teams here in the coming weeks, post spring, kind of see how spring went for them. And those Ohio State plays their spring game this week. And I think Clemson has already played theirs. If they're not, they're getting ready to. And USC is, just about everyone's coming in.
I'm interested to see how, Navy's got a new head coach. What's that going to be like? Are they looking forward to going to Dublin? Blah blah blah. All that fun stuff. But, JD is a starter. No problem with that. They struggled against the dive against Navy because JD Bertrand was injured. Period. End of discussion. If he was in that game is a blowout. I'm sorry, because the only way that a triple option is successful is if the dive is an option. He would have taken that away. And that's just about being assignment sound, just like you said. And
that's again, you can ask Jesse about that because he averaged 18 tackles a game when they played Mishawaka's triple option in high school. So
absolutely. Shut that down. You shut it down. And that's how you shut down the option. You shut down the dive, right? So I just think that he's way too valuable not to have on the field. And the other guys are in debate. I get that. I think there's a place for Kaiser, whether he's a starter or a rotator. I don't really care because to me, I think they're going to rotate enough that starting is whatever. But those are the two I want to see on the field at some point, right? And I think Snead belongs on the field. I think Prince Collie deserves some snaps. I think, a lot of those guys.
Like, one thing we have a direct comparison on is when Kaiser plays Will versus when Leofau plays Will. And the difference is, again, Leofau is not completely out of place. He's in the spot that he needs to be. He's just not making plays.
Right.
Whereas Bertrand, playing that exact same position, is out there consistently making plays. And that's why, it's a broken record, but that's why I like JD so much better. And to Brian's point, like Jack so much better. And, his body is not the same size as JD Bertrand. And so can he hold up over a full season? Probably not. But if he got a considerable, like if he took 30 to 40%, or even, 50% of the snaps there at Will linebacker, I think that would be a good, because
Absolutely.
then, like, if he took early down snaps there, and then you're using some of these other guys who are, different athletically, in nickel and dime situations and stuff like that, like Ziegler is a possibility. Kali is probably a possibility, Snead in there as well.
That's the good thing with the depth that they have at linebacker too.
Right.
I want to see some packages, like, and even from game to game, you play a run heavy team, you get your run heavy guys in there. You play a pass heavy team like a USC or maybe even Ohio State, although I think they're going to be a little bit more run, even though they've got the best wide receiver in the country. You can sub guys, because like people were saying, well, JD and Jack, sometimes they struggle against pass teams. Okay, I get that. You got some other guys that can do really well in pass coverage. I think they are deep enough to be able to do that. And I think Al Golden is smart enough to make that happen. We'll just have to see what those rotations and what those game-to-game looks look like when fall finally hits.
Yes. Jacob, what auto insurance company should I go with?
I don't even know why I started that. I just thought it was funny from Jacob. I appreciate the question. I go with the cheapest one out there because I'm a cheapskate, and as long as I'm covered, I'm good. So we are a Progressive family.
Yeah, we used to be Progressive, but like what happened with a few of our automobiles, like there were accidents that were not our fault, but
like the one where you weren't even in the car.
Yes, and it got flipped up in the air because a drunk guy without a license, rammed into the back of it. And
yes, that one.
They ended up canceling us because we had too many claims, even though they weren't our fault. So, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So
you weren't even in the car. Like,
I know.
That's supposed to do
exactly. Well, and it wasn't just that, but there was another, like thing that my wife was involved in, and a cement truck hit her car about a year or so later. Yeah, we had to, the one got totaled, so we got, a new one,
right?
And we had Ford Escapes. We went from one Ford Escape to a newer model Ford Escape. The second one got hit by a cement truck after the first one got totaled by a drunk driver, and then so that one ends up getting totaled, and then we got another one, and I think that there was like a transmission issue or something, so it's like we're actually on our fourth Ford Escape.
Wow, you're just sticking with the brand.
Yeah, I mean they've held up well as long as someone hasn't run into them and totaled them. So,
wow,
like them. In fact, it was so confusing that I thought we still had a CD player. The old one had a CD player. We traded it in. And the new one doesn't have a CD player. I was trying to play CDs the other day. I was like, what happened to the CD player? I know we used to have one because the inside of the car looks exactly the same.
I'm sure it does.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. I can't believe the cars have advanced beyond CDs. That just makes us old.
I know. It's all Bluetooth now.
It's crazy.
David wants to know when we're at practice, who's the first player we look for? If you had a choice, what position group would you watch first?
I mean, to be honest with you, obviously it varies year to year. This year, the first two people I was looking for were Sam Hartman and Tobias Merriweather. Those are the two. And I watch both of those groups, and usually they're together, so it makes it easier. But I was always an offensive coordinator, offensive type coach. coached wide receivers, coached quarterbacks. So like I am naturally drawn to that side of the football and to those two position groups. And let's be honest, it's the flashy side of the ball. So I always watch quarterbacks and I watch wide receivers and those two guys in particular.
That's pretty much what I would go with. Like my eyes always go to the quarterbacks first. I always, even when they're just tossing the ball around, doing next to nothing. That's where I always go first.
Right.
And I agree with what you're saying. Tobias Merriweather, Chris Tyree is someone, who we all, I think, had some extra interest in early since he was playing wide receiver. Other than that, like I have actually tried to focus more time the last couple of practices on what's going on with the interior line, but that's something that usually lulls me to sleep. But I have tried to focus more on
It's hard though, man, because they're just doing drill work usually when we're there. And it's just like, okay, it's just like those ridiculous camps that kids get sent to. It's like you can only know so much when from a defensive or offensive lineman when they're in shorts, shorts and no helmets. And that's basically what these drills are, and it's hard to watch at times. Yes, as a coach, I can tell if they're doing something right or they're doing something wrong or whatever, but that doesn't always translate to the field, man. So, and then it's hard during a scrimmage situation because you're forced to kind of watch the ball. And the ball isn't usually where the defensive and offensive line are. So, yeah, I got you there. I love this comment from Father David Penny. He says, Vince scouts the kickers to size up his son's competition.
That's right.
You're not wrong.
How close is he to a scholarship? How close is he?
The first practice that we went to, they started off with special teams, and they had two groups going, and they were kicking different places, and the one kid literally missed every one. And I was like, I walked over to Brian. I go, Dylan's got a chance. So you're not far off, Father David. You're not far off.
Right. That's right. Might be right on the nose, as a matter of fact. Nathan, is the defensive line bigger, stronger, and faster this year?
As a whole, top to bottom, probably. I don't know that they have the standout like a Foskey or an Adamalola yet. I don't. Can we look at the defensive line right now and be like, that's a potential first round draft pick? You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that exists at the moment. Maybe someday, but maybe as a whole, I think they're deeper than they were.
I mean, you just look at them across the line. When you look at some of the guys lining up out there, I mean, like you take the Adamalolas out, they were a little bit undersized to begin with. And then you throw in guys like an Onye and, like some of these other guys, Rubio and, Jordan Botelho is every bit as not quite as maybe chiseled as Isaiah Foskey, but he's, pretty good.
Sure.
Pretty quick twitch himself. So, I would say it is it's definitely a more imposing looking defensive line. And we're starting to see some of it from that interior. I was talking about that on the show earlier today. Really like the disruptiveness that we're starting to see in there. But, remember, they're going against an interior themselves. Notre Dame's trying to replace two offensive guards. So that's still kind of a work in progress. But I like what we're seeing in there. It is still spring for everybody. But
got a ways to go yet. Definitely have a ways to go for sure.
Yes. Jeff wants to know if it's concerning that a supposed breakout defensive player like Botelho got dominated by Joe Alt today, even though we know how good Alt is. He's going to square off against some other very good tackles during the year.
No, it is not concerning because Joe Alt's an All-American. And yes, you would like to see Botelho win one here or there. And I don't believe that was necessarily the case, yesterday or today, I mean. But, I think Botelho is going to be good. How many All-American tackles is he going to be going up against? I don't think that many, if I'm being honest, as I look through the schedule. So I don't think it's something to stress about right away. I mean, Joe Alt is one of the best, if not the best left tackle in college football. And it's only going to make Botelho better every day, even if he's not winning each individual rep.
Yeah. Botelho's biggest question mark is consistency.
Sure.
And I'm not saying that, like he, might not have had a good day today because he wasn't, like trying his hardest or whatever, but he's going against Joe Alt, just like you said. I mean, a guy that we're talking about as a first-round draft pick. Nobody's talking about Jordan Botelho as a first-round draft pick right now. He's still a
Right.
ton of potential, trying to show that he belongs out there. And I agree with, I think, that last point that you made. It's only going to make Jordan Botelho better. Like we've talked about these O-line, D-line battles in the past, the whole iron sharpens iron and all that kind of stuff. So Jordan Botelho might not have won that much today, but he was out there. Like what I like about Botelho that, is still a knock on Isaiah Foskey that we've talked about is Botelho is at least out there trying a repertoire of moves to get around Joe Alt. None of them happened to work very well today, but like Isaiah Foskey, was predominantly just bull rush trying to power you, and and if that didn't work, there wasn't another gear to go to. So I still see a very bright future for Jordan Botelho. So I'm not concerned about that. Again, one practice in the spring going up against an All-American type left tackle, that's not going to bother me too much.
Yeah.
He's only going to get better from it. Oh boy, we've got a long one here.
Yeah,
from Son of 66.
This is a good one though.
Okay. Sean Vince chat looking for help. My dad was on the team from 64 to 67. He said he recorded a sack last play of the game against Michigan State in 67. He was never credited in the stat book. Part 2. He says they gave it to an offensive player. His birthday is coming in May, and he thought it might be cool to see if I could get him in the official stat book for Notre Dame. Does anyone have any thoughts?
So my thought would be to reach out to the program, reach out to Notre Dame football. There's plenty of people on the website. Katie Laudergan would be one. Alan Wisniewski would be another one. And you just let them know exactly what you just told us. I mean, they're going to be open. He was on the team. Like, they're going to talk to you. They're not, I wouldn't imagine that they're going to shut you down like that. So I would say reach out, man. That's the best way to do it. I mean, obviously, we don't have any control over that sort of thing. You're going to have to go through the program. This would be the time to do it because it's not
that kind of stuff
season.
Happens all the time where
oh, absolutely.
and especially back then when stuff wasn't computerized and where you obviously you have the same number, two guys with the same number, one on offense, one on defense. You've seen it in post-game stats before. We're like, oh, how did that guy end up with a rushing yard? Or how did that, whatever it happens to be. He didn't have a reception, that kind of stuff. But fortunately, because of how good just film and everything else is now, it's pretty easy to correct. But in 1967, it was a lot different. And if it never went unchecked, then give him a shout. I would include probably, what number it was and see if you can get it corrected. That would be pretty cool if it happens.
And I would, I know his birthday's in May. You could try to reach out now, but they're going to be way less busy once spring ball's over. You know what I mean? And so, you might have an opportunity since it's kind of the off season. I would absolutely go after it, man. Why not? Just bug them until they respond, and I'm not saying they won't respond, but squeaky wheel gets the grease, man.
Right. Absolutely. All right. Well, I tell you what, I've seen some more questions kind of start up and queued up here. We'll save some of them as we get into rapid fire. Do you want to start some rapid fire right now?
Let's go, baby. Let's go. Rapid fire on a Wednesday.
Yeah, baby. Fill in the blank. Lorenzo Styles practicing at cornerback at today's practice, Vince, is blank.
When I read that, I was like, what? Because I wasn't at practice today.
And I was waiting all day and I never got it but you obviously watched a little bit of the show. So
I was dumbfounded by that. It's dumbfounding to me. Again, we do know that he has practice there throughout the spring. It's just not while we have been there. Okay. So I think that's important to understand. Right. But I was shocked. That is not the move. If there was going to be a move, that was not the move I saw taking place. I just didn't. So I'm shocked by the whole thing. I mean, if it helps the team, fantastic. But I am absolutely shocked that that's what they're attempting to do right now.
Yeah, and apparently, and again, we touched on this earlier. Apparently, this is something that he was interested in doing, and he has dabbled in this a little bit over the course of the spring when we haven't been there. It's just that today was the first time that we actually got to see it. And he looked, I mean, the guy is a little over 6'1". He's a little bit, he's like listed at 190 pounds. So he has good physical traits, and just watching him play cornerback, it's obvious that he played cornerback in high school and he hasn't forgotten some of those skills. The problem is, like, cornerback is not where the depth issues are in the secondary. Like, if you're going to have a guy like him, move from the offense, safety is, probably where you'd like it a little bit more, but that's not where he's been running. But he looked pretty good what we saw. He went up in a one-on-one with Braylon James and was very physical with James. Now, again, you're talking about 6'1", 190 going into your junior year versus a kid who should be finishing his senior year of high school right now. So you would expect him to have a little bit more man strength than the young guy. But, he did. He out-physicaled him at the line of scrimmage. So I don't know. I don't know what to make of it, but I was completely shocked because we were in those blue bleachers, on the completely one side of the field. The corners were working on the other field. There's two practice fields out there. So they were working, and someone said something about Lorenzo Styles out there, and I looked at the corners. I'm like, and I didn't see him. I said, is he in a blue jersey? And they said, yeah, wait for so-and-so to move. And then somebody kind of, took a step forward, and then it revealed Lorenzo Styles wearing his blue jersey.
And he's the only number 4 on the roster, which I thought was interesting in the first place, because if you remember last year at this time, Xavier Watts was number 4, and then he switched back to 26 so that he could go play offense and never changed out of it. And now he's number 0. I assumed he would go back to 4. So maybe that's why there's no other number 4, because they want to be able to use him on both sides of the ball. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. I just like numbers. So
maybe that's it.
I don't know.
Well, Anthony asks, how surprised would we be if Ziegler starts over Marist by season's end?
By season's end? Not super surprised. By season start, I would be surprised, but I think I might also be surprised if Marist was starting. I mean, I don't know that that's a foregone conclusion right now. So, I guess let's see how things, transition, but Ziegler could easily get a start in there someplace. I don't know that he'll be the everyday starter, though.
I'd be shocked if Ziegler doesn't at least start a game by the end of the season, just based on where he is right now and, where you would expect him to be by the end of the season. And, that's obviously unless we see more, but again, if we're only talking about Will linebacker, then I think there's another option. Like Jack Kaiser could be there as well. But because nickel dime packages and all, I think Ziegler is going to see some action in a lot of those, specialty packages and stuff like that.
And they could start in one of those specialty packages at some point. So then he would technically be a starter.
Right. So so I would not be surprised if he's a starter. I think we're all going to be following what happens with Leafau and that whole, because again, I think the only linebacker spot we're really confident in right now is the middle linebacker.
Yeah.
JD Bertrand. So last week, Todd McShay had Michael Mayer going to Dallas with the number 26 pick in the draft, which is 2 weeks from tomorrow. And now Mel Kiper Jr. this week has Mayer also going to the Cowboys with the same pick, number 26 in the first round. Vince, are they just toying with me at this point?
I mean, according to the internet, he's a third-tier tight end, so I don't know what you're getting so excited about. Okay? He's third tier. He's like the 4th best tight end in the draft. Of course Dallas will pick him because he's no good. He stinks. He's not a good tight end. Dude, if that ends up happening, I mean, I realized Jalen Smith didn't work out, but I was so jealous that you got Jalen Smith.
That's because of injury, though.
I know, but I was jealous at that point.
Worked out for a year and a half.
I will be insanely jealous if you get Michael Mayer. No doubt about that. I mean, he will instantly make the team better offensively, instantly, if they actually use him the way they should.
It's my dream. It's my dream.
mean,
And you see other guys, being talked about in the, it's like it's 26. A lot can happen before pick number 26. Some other team might actually wake up and say, hey, this Michael Mayer guy looks pretty good. Dane Brugler from The Athletic released his Beast, The Beast. It's a 300 plus page NFL draft guide that breaks down position by position and player after player. He's got Mayer number one, on his tight end.
He's not wrong. I'm sorry. I'm obviously bullish on Michael Mayer. He's the best tight end in the draft. If he falls all the way to 26 and you end up getting him, you better go ahead.
I would be ecstatic.
Go to bed a happy man that Thursday night because you guys just won the first round of the draft. That's how I feel about it.
I would sleep well. Anthony also wants to know how we feel. Would we like to see a normal practice versus the Blitz Fest practices?
Duh. I want to be at practice on Saturday. Like, that's where I want to be at practice, when they're having a full-fledged scrimmage, which obviously sounds like it's going to happen, in the blue gold game for the most part. But I would rather see a controlled scrimmage in practice than I would the blue gold game, because there's just too much crap that goes along with the blue gold game. Plus, the teams are going to be split up. So it's not going to be number one. It's not going to be the ones together.
The draft is going to be next week at some point. I forgot about that. They've got to draft teams and all that stuff.
Which I enjoyed going to last year, by the way, to the draft. And I don't think it's going to be open to the media this time around. It doesn't sound like. But I kind of dig that kind of stuff. They made a big deal out of it last year. Remember that? Like, remember Jerome Bettis was the MC, and they had like the whole thing, and they had all the jerseys hanging up, and they took pictures. Like, I thought it was cool. I really enjoyed that.
Me too. To answer the question, I agree. I would, I'd rather see a full scrimmage than, you're right. The blue gold game, they're going to, the team's going to be split up unevenly. It's not necessarily going to be ones versus twos and all that. Although I think you could make a case that they should just, rather than drafting the offensive line, they should play the first unit offensive line and the second unit offensive line on different teams, or, that kind of thing, rather than cobble it together and all that kind of stuff to give them, a better chance of working together and those kind of things. But they're going to hide things at the blue gold game. They're going to keep it as vanilla as possible, and of course you have the running clock in the second half and all those different things. So I'd much rather see a scrimmage than what we've seen, but also take what we got today, because we weren't expecting what we got today. That's true. And it gave us at least something to talk about and something, to base what we saw previously on as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fill in the blank. It's blank that the Notre Dame women's basketball team will open the season against South Carolina in Paris, France in November.
I mean, I knew about this already. I'm just saying, because I got a man on the inside. But it's freaking awesome. Like, it's really cool. I think
I was sworn to secrecy, so you didn't.
I didn't tell anybody.
You didn't actually just say that. So.
No, and I didn't tell anybody either. Because as soon as you told me, I forgot. And then when it got announced, I was like, "Oh yeah, Sean told me about that." But no, I think it's awesome. I think it's a great way to grow the game. I think women's basketball is as popular as it's ever been, and so why not take it for a spin with one of the top two? I would assume the preseason, both of these teams are going to be in the top 5. I mean, I think that's a pretty safe bet, and you're going to take 2 of your best teams overseas. I think it's a great idea.
Absolutely. And I saw some people, after it was announced today, on social media, why are they doing that? Why aren't they playing, here in the States or, wherever else? No college basketball game, men's or women's, has ever been played in Paris. And now you've got Notre Dame, and what is in Notre Dame? The Notre Dame Cathedral, and you've got South Carolina, 2 premier programs going head to head in Paris. It's going to be awesome. And this will also be the first time that the women's basketball team has ever played outside the continental U.S., so then they're going to go play a regular season game in Europe to start off the season. So
awesome.
It's going to be awesome. Got to brush up on some French. Got to, learn
Oui,
some
oui.
conversational getting around and all that kind of stuff. And excited about it. Ready for that trip.
I agree with Anthony on this one too. Would love for ND to give SC a season opening L.
That'd be very nice.
They're going to be trotting out some pretty talented ladies, assuming health is all good to go around the horn. And that's going to be a lot of fun to watch. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah. Yeah. And I agree with Jason. It is pretty damn cool that, it's like how many, again, no college basketball game has ever been played in Paris before. So how many people can say that they played in Paris? As of right now, the answer is 0. So
right.
That is very cool. They're going to get to do something nobody has ever done before.
And a little second honeymoon for you and the missus too.
That's right. If she decides to go.
Well, if she doesn't want to go, I'll go with you.
I'm sure you would. Yes. So the Aaron Rodgers to the New York Jets talk still lingering. Do you buy or sell Rodgers is going to be a Jet by draft night in 2 weeks?
This is tough because I figured if this was going to happen, it would have happened already. And all the talk had basically died down, and now all of a sudden people are talking about it again. So I guess it's back on the table. I'm going to sell it just because I just don't trust anything that has to do with him right now. I want to buy it. I want him out of the NFC North. I want him to go to New York and just get hammered by the press every day. Like that would be a popcorn moment for me. I would enjoy watching that.
I'm
but
sure you would.
I just don't see it happening. I hope so, but I just don't see it happening.
All these Packers people have to answer to it, like the Jets. Someone from the Jets was talking about it over the weekend and the whole thing. And it's like the holdup right now is what the Jets are willing to give up. And I think what the Packers want in return for Aaron Rodgers. And I can see why, like if the Packers are saying, hey, we want, first round draft picks and whatever else. Well, there's no guarantee that Rodgers isn't going to just retire after one more season. So how much do you want to give up if you're the New York Jets, So,
sure.
But at the same time, the Jets need him more than the Packers apparently need him at this point. So I think something's going to get done. Like it might happen. Like we see a Schefter bomb drop, like an hour before the draft or something like that. So I'll say it will get done.
I hope
at least during draft night, Thursday night next week.
This is one of those ones where I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I hope you're right. This is one that I would really love for that to be the case.
Yes.
When is the draft? Is it the 20?
2 weeks.
The 20. Oh, it's a week after. Okay, so we're not going to miss the draft by being at the Blue Gold
2 weeks
game.
2 weeks from Thursday. Yeah. So tomorrow's the 13th. The next week is the 20th. The Blue Gold game is the 22nd, and then the draft begins on the 27th.
Ooh, there's a good couple of weeks here coming up. Okay.
Yeah, we're getting into the stretch.
I can dig it.
I'm thinking like maybe mock draft, like
ooh, okay.
Our own little mock.
That might be something maybe fun for Friday. Like a Friday thing with the three of us.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Like we'd have to do that the week before, but yeah, we could do that. All right, so WJS, whatever that is.
Sounds like a radio station.
I know it does. He said he would love to, or she would love to hear Vince's top 5 quarterbacks in the NFC, because on one of your shows last week, Jason gave one of the worst top 5s ever. Nothing but I assume he means Jesse.
Worst ever?
Do you know the quarterbacks that are in the NFC right now? That's the point. There is not what we gave was assuming Aaron Rodgers is going to the AFC. How would we rank the top 5 quarterbacks in the NFC? And, think about it. Okay, if Rodgers leaves, Tom Brady has also just retired.
He's gone.
Drew Brees retired 2 years ago. Like those easily would have been and even Matt Ryan left the NFC, to go to the Colts last year. So the complexion of NFC quarterbacks has changed quite a bit, because we had like Matt Stafford, we had Jalen Hurts, we had Dak Prescott.
Okay.
I'm trying to even think.
I like the kid from Detroit. I would have up there.
So you'd have Goff in there.
I mean, he's in the conversation. I'm throwing out, like, as I'm sifting through the teams right now, like, sorry, Kyler Murray's not up there.
See, Jesse had Kyler Murray in his top 5. I don't agree with that either.
I would not. The kid from Atlanta is not old enough.
Kirk Cousins, I think, made the top 5.
Kirk Cousins, I think, should be up there. I mean, kid's made a lot of money.
But again,
obviously.
That's what you're stuck with in the NFC right now. The quality of quarterbacks in the NFC is not good. So, like
Danny
I don't know what you expected us to come up with. Danny Dimes. Oh, my goodness. So, I don't know. I don't know if you have.
As I'm looking through the NFC, none of these quarterbacks are like, man, I wish he was on my team. Like I've got Justin Fields on my team, and it just feels like, okay, well, he can compete with anybody in the NFC. I don't know that he's one of the best, but he's at least fun to watch for right now. I don't know how long that's going to last, but he's at least fun to watch. So, yeah, saying you're in the top 5 of the NFC is not really a ringing endorsement, in my opinion, for being a good quarterback.
Yeah.
How about that?
Anthony wants a blue gold draft show.
Now, that one we could do. That one we could definitely do. Didn't you and I feel like we did that a couple of years ago on your radio show.
Well, I think we did. We drafted teams.
Yeah, I remember sitting in the stands at something for Penn, or I was sitting in the stands someplace with like my doodle pad, and like,
of course you were.
We were doing it on the radio. I remember doing that. So that was fun. That was a lot of fun.
That's right. And that would be fairly easy to do. I think that would not be a bad idea. Fill in the blank. The Tampa Bay Rays are 11-0 to open the season, and it means blank.
Nothing. It means that they've had a really good run of 11 games. I'm proud of them. That's awesome, but they're still the Rays. They make it to the playoffs all the time, and then nothing happens. And so still, until I'm proven wrong, that's how I feel like this is going to go. Now, I think that they are a playoff team. I think they probably make the playoffs. But I'll tell you what, man, this is baseball. You can easily lose 11 in a row as you could win an 11 in a row. And it is a very, very long season. So it's great for now, but.
A New York radio and TV host tried to crown the Mets the NL East champions on Memorial Day last year, and that did not work out. It's great for them that they're 11-0. It's not like they played a murderer's row. They played Detroit, Washington, Oakland, and they've taken a couple of games from Boston. Interesting that a couple of, they're 11-0, and a couple of their wins over the A's were 11-0 wins in back-to-back games. But it's April. Again, it's great for them that they're off to a great start, and they're in command right now in the AL East. But there's a lot of baseball to be played. What is that? Still 151 games remaining.
A lot of baseball left to be played.
Yeah, you can easily lose 11 in a row as you started off with 11 straight wins. All right, a couple more to finish up on here tonight. This one is for Vince. Curious, what were your thoughts when you first found out you were having twins? I also have kids and a set of 15-year-old, 5 kids and a set of 15-year-old twins.
It's very similar. That'll be me in 2 years, or a year and a half, because my twins are 13 and their birthday's in October.
My gosh, are they that old now?
Yeah, they're 13, dude. And they're almost as tall as me, which isn't saying a lot, but they're big kids. Quick story, very quick story. So I was working at Bonefish Grill as one of my little part-time gigs at the time as I was teaching. And we went to the ultrasound, found out that they were twins. I vividly remember questioning the credentials of the ultrasound lady. I actually asked her if she was drunk. She's like, I've been doing this for 25 years. I'm like, all right. But anyway, I then went to work that night at Bonefish, and I was just off my game, man. I was messing up orders. I was just all over the place. And that's not like me. Like, I'm usually really good at my job. And my boss was like, dude, what is wrong with you? And I take out my little pad, and I wrote on there, just found out we're having twins. And I ripped it off and I gave it to him. And he read it. He goes, holy crap, go home. He just sent me home in the middle of the shift. He's like, this isn't going to work. And it took me a good 2 weeks to kind of like
come to grips with the whole. Yeah.
Yes. I was like, what? Because we had one kid and the twins were next. And so we're, like anybody else, like, oh, one is great. Like, 2, no big deal. Like, we'll still be good. Going from 1 to 3, like that was a lot to like process and deal with. And it was a little nutty. It's a good thing that I didn't find out as they were coming out, because that would have been terrible.
That would have been too much.
That would have been way too much.
Yes. Finally, from Rumlick, Derek, he said, Sean, after carrying the afternoon show internally, do you hope Vince brings the fire? And I did not carry the afternoon show. I can say that confidently. But Vince brought the fire tonight. So
always bringing the fire, baby.
I'm glad. Everyone's playing, like a little, I won't say injured, but we were all, a little dragging today. So
that's fair.
I thought everybody brought their game today. So that was good.
And I'm off to a birthday party after this. One of my other children is having her 11th birthday today. So we're going to go.
Happy birthday.
Have a little dinner for the Clomeister, for little Chloe.
All right.
So
good deal. Well, you enjoy that. And appreciate everyone for being here as always.
Yes.
Today. Great stuff. Great questions that we had. We'll be back tomorrow. As we don't have any practice tomorrow, but we've got plenty of Notre Dame stuff that we can talk about on tomorrow's show. Gonna have a special guest that I'll just say we're gonna have a special guest.
You're such a tease.
I know.
Such a tease.
I know.
Man, I don't even know who it is.
So you have to tune in for tomorrow's show.
All right, I will.
All right. Hit the like button on your way out. We appreciate it. Subscribe, rate, and review. Give us that 5-star rating and leave a comment on your podcast platforms as well. Vince, I will talk to you later, and we'll talk to everybody else very soon on IB Nation Sports Talk.